When a woman feels guilty, she won't tell you the truth. She'll show it in changes you weren't expecting. Her words, her tone, her actions, they all shift when guilt takes over. And while you're busy enjoying the extra affection or the sudden gifts, you miss the truth, screaming at you through her behavior. That's why today I'm going to walk you through 10 signs that reveal when she's feeling guilty after being unfaithful. Watch closely because the 7th one is the easiest to notice, and every guilty woman does it. Before we dive into these signs, take a second to subscribe, hit like, and let me know what city you're watching from in the comments. I want to see how far this message is reaching, and I'm truly glad to see our community growing stronger every day. Now, let's break down the very first sign. A sudden flood of affection that feels good, but it could also very well be guilt trying to rewrite the story. Number 1, she suddenly becomes overly affectionate. At first, it feels flattering. She hugs you more, kisses you for no reason, and drops "I love you" texts in the middle of the day. A part of you wants to believe it's just love overflowing. But here's the uncomfortable truth. When someone feels guilty, they often try to tip the scales back in their favor. That extra sweetness may not come from real desire. It comes from guilt trying to patch up the wound. Psychologically, guilt creates imbalance. She knows she crossed a line, and to calm her conscience, she may shower you with affection to convince both you and herself that everything is fine. It's not always about closeness. Many times, it's about damage control. The affection isn't spontaneous. It's calculated. It's her way of saying, "Look at how much I love you," so you won't ask what she's been doing when you weren't around. Here's what you need to understand. Real love is consistent. It doesn't appear overnight like a storm of sudden devotion. If her affection skyrockets out of nowhere without a deeper reason, like reconciliation after a fight, it's worth asking yourself what's fueling it. Is it love or is it guilt? As a man, your job isn't to reject affection, but to observe patterns. If kindness appears suddenly and intensely, but doesn't line up with her usual behavior, don't get lost in the sweetness. Step back, watch carefully, and remember, over-affection after betrayal isn't always intimacy. It's often her conscience begging for forgiveness without ever saying the words. Number 2, she starts buying you gifts for no reason. It feels good, doesn't it? She surprises you with a new shirt, that gadget you mentioned once, or tickets to something you like. Out of nowhere, she's acting like the most thoughtful partner alive. A part of you thinks, wow, she must really care. But here's what most men never realize. Sudden generosity is one of guilt's favorite disguises. This is what psychologists call guilt spending. When someone does something they know is wrong, the weight of that guilt can become unbearable. To balance it out, they try to repay without admitting the truth. A new gift is easier than a confession. A surprise dinner is easier than facing what she's done. These gifts aren't about you. They're about her trying to silence her conscience. The danger is simple. Men often confuse gifts with love. You get distracted by the shiny object in front of you and miss the bigger question. Why now? Why is she suddenly so generous? Real affection isn't measured in things. It's measured in consistency, effort, and presence. Here's the mindset you need. Accept the gift, but don't let it blind you. Keep your focus on the behavior behind the gesture. If her generosity appears suddenly after weeks or months of emotional distance, it's not romance, it's reparations. And reparations mean there's a wound she's trying to cover up. Remember this, a gift can never erase betrayal. If you see sudden generosity with no clear reason, it may not be her love speaking. It may be her guilt trying to buy silence. Number 3, she suddenly takes an unusual interest in your day. It starts with small questions. How was work? What did you eat? What time did you get home? On the surface, it looks like she finally cares about the details of your life. You might even feel appreciated for once. But here's where you need to be sharp. When curiosity explodes overnight, it's often not about closeness. It's about covering tracks. Guilt makes people want to shift attention. If she's asking about every little thing in your routine, it's not because she's suddenly fascinated with your office meetings or lunch choices. It's because the more she gets you talking, the less you'll notice what she's hiding. It creates a smokescreen, fake intimacy that distracts you from her own movements. Men often mistake this for genuine care. They feel good when their partner acts more interested than usual. But true interest grows gradually and shows up in follow-up actions, remembering what you said, supporting your goals, or engaging in meaningful conversations. Sudden interrogation style interest is different. It's shallow, repetitive, and oddly timed. Here's the principle. When someone floods you with questions that don't match their past behavior, don't just answer, observe. Ask yourself, is she truly connecting with me, or is she redirecting my attention? Real connection makes you feel seen. Fake connection makes you feel distracted. Never confuse surveillance with love. If her sudden interest feels more like an act than a bond, you're not looking at closeness. You're looking at guilt trying to hide in plain sight. Number 4, she gets defensive over simple questions. You ask something harmless like, "Where were you?" or "Who were you with?" and suddenly, it's like you've accused her of a crime. Her tone sharpens, her body stiffens, and instead of answering, she lashes out. You're left wondering why a casual question turned into an argument. Here's the psychology. Guilt breeds paranoia. When someone is hiding something, even the simplest questions feel like an attack. It's not your words that spark the explosion. It's the truth she doesn't want to reveal. Her defensiveness is less about you and more about the silent weight she's carrying inside. The trap most men fall into is reacting emotionally. You start defending yourself, insisting you weren't accusing her, or worse, you back down and avoid questions altogether. That's exactly what guilt-driven defensiveness feeds on. It trains you to stop asking. Instead, you need to recognize what's really happening. A secure partner can answer calmly. A guilty partner reacts like she's on trial. Watch her nonverbal cues, sudden anger, nervous gestures, or a shift in eye contact. These are signs of internal panic, not honest communication. Here's the rule. Don't argue. Don't chase explanations. Stay calm and observe. The more defensive she gets over questions that shouldn't be threatening, the clearer it becomes that something isn't right. Remember, real trust doesn't break under small questions. If every inquiry feels like a battlefield, you're not dealing with healthy communication. You're dealing with guilt dressed up as outrage. Number 5, she suddenly changes her routine. Out of nowhere, she's cooking dinner more often, suggesting movie nights, or sitting with you to watch the shows she never cared about before. At first, it feels like a dream. She's finally putting in effort, finally acting like the partner you always wanted. But before you get too comfortable, ask yourself, why the sudden shift? Behavioral shifts like these don't usually come from nowhere. When guilt is in play, change is often strategic. She wants to rebuild your sense of security before you even realize it's been broken. Cooking your favorite meal or acting invested in your hobbies becomes a distraction, a way to steer your attention away from the unspoken. It's not growth, it's damage control. Men often misread these moments. You think she's maturing or finally seeing your value. But genuine growth happens gradually, not overnight. If her habits flip like a switch, it's less likely about love and more about fear of being exposed. She's not just adding kindness, she's trying to overwrite suspicion. Your job is not to reject the gesture, but to interpret it correctly. Ask, does this change feel natural, consistent, and sustained, or is it a sudden performance? Real partnership doesn't need to act like theater. Remember this, routines tell the truth. When they shift suddenly, especially without any conversation or reason, don't be lulled into comfort. It's often not about bonding with you. It's about keeping you from noticing what she's already done. Number 6, she suddenly gives you more freedom than ever before. The woman who once asked where you were going, or who you were with now, waves you off with a smile. Go out with your friends. I trust you. At first, it feels refreshing. The tension is gone. The jealousy is gone. And for once, she's not keeping tabs on you. But here's the hidden layer. When freedom shows up overnight, it often carries the fingerprints of guilt. Psychologically, this shift can be a form of projection. She knows she stepped outside the boundaries. And in her mind, giving you more freedom makes things fair. If she crossed the line, then you having the same opportunity somehow clears her conscience. It's not genuine trust. It's a trade-off in her head. I did it, so maybe he should too. Many men misinterpret this as growth, thinking their partner has finally matured and let go of insecurity. But real trust builds slowly through consistency and honesty. Sudden freedom, especially when it replaces years of possessiveness, isn't a gift. It's a red flag. Here's how to approach it. Enjoy the freedom, but don't ignore the context. Ask yourself why the change happened now. Did something shift in the relationship dynamic? Or is it simply her guilt rewriting the rules? Remember, real trust doesn't appear overnight. If she suddenly loosens her grip without explanation, it's not about respect. It's about evening the score. Freedom should feel like a choice rooted in love, not a desperate attempt to balance betrayal. Number 7. She flips her behavior with her phone. At first, she guards it like a safe. The phone never leaves her hand. It's face down on the table, locked with new passwords, and any notification sends her rushing to check. Then suddenly the script flips. The phone is left lying around unlocked, casually placed where you can see it. She even encourages you to use it if you need to. On the surface, it looks like transparency. But here's the truth. It's often just another layer of guilt management. This shift is strategic. Right after betrayal, paranoia makes her hide everything. But when guilt sets in, she knows secrecy raises suspicion. So she does the opposite. She leaves her phone open, creating the illusion of trust, all while knowing she's already erased what matters. It's not real openness. It's theater designed to rebuild your confidence. Most men fall for it. They see the phone lying around and think if she were hiding something, she wouldn't do that. But understand this, by the time she leaves her phone in plain sight, the evidence is usually gone. What you're seeing isn't honesty, it's performance. Here's your move. Don't be distracted by appearances. Observe the timing. Did she switch from hyper-protective to overly relaxed without explanation? If yes, don't assume you've regained trust. Real openness doesn't flip like a light switch. Remember this, when someone goes out of their way to look trustworthy, it's often because they're desperate for you not to look deeper. Number 8. She suddenly starts overpraising you. Out of nowhere, you're the best man she's ever met. You're the strongest, the kindest, the only one who truly understands her. Every conversation turns into a speech about how amazing you are. It feels good, almost intoxicating, but let's cut through the noise. When compliments come flooding in without reason, they're often less about love and more about guilt. Psychologically, this is overcompensation. Deep down, she knows she's done something that contradicts her words. To silence that inner conflict, she drowns you in praise. The more she says you're perfect, the easier it is for her to pretend she hasn't betrayed that perfection. Praise becomes her shield against her own conscience. Here's where men get trapped. We love recognition. When someone tells us we're great, we drop our guard. That's exactly why guilt uses flattery as a weapon. If she can keep you basking in her words, you'll be too distracted to notice the cracks in her behavior. Your responsibility is not to reject praise, but to measure it. Ask yourself, is this praise consistent with her past behavior, or is it suddenly overwhelming? Real respect doesn't need exaggeration. It shows up in actions, not just speeches. Remember this, when admiration feels inflated, it's usually not a reflection of your greatness. It's a reflection of her guilt. Don't confuse flattery with loyalty. If her words sound like a performance, that's exactly what they are. Number 9. She shows sudden bursts of sadness or anxiety. You notice her staring off into space, wiping away random tears, or snapping under pressure that doesn't make sense. She blames it on work stress, hormones, or just feeling off. But the timing is strange. The emotions seem to come out of nowhere, and they don't line up with the circumstances. What you're witnessing may not be random mood swings. It may be guilt taking its toll. Psychologically, guilt is heavy. It doesn't just sit quietly in the mind, it leaks into emotions. When someone carries a secret that clashes with their identity, it creates internal conflict. That conflict often shows up as unexplained sadness, irritability, or stress. She's not crying because of you. She's crying because her conscience won't let her rest. Here's where men go wrong. They rush in to fix it. You hug her, reassure her, or bend over backwards to lift her mood. But when guilt is the root cause, your comfort doesn't solve anything. It only gives her a temporary escape while the truth keeps eating at her. The smarter move is to step back and observe. Do these emotional breakdowns happen more often after suspicious changes in behavior? Do they appear with no clear trigger? If yes, don't ignore the pattern. Remember, genuine stress has clear sources: work deadlines, family issues, health concerns. But guilt-driven emotions erupt unpredictably. If her sadness feels misplaced and disproportionate, it's not random. It's the weight of betrayal pressing down, and it's a sign you can't afford to overlook. Number 10. She starts bringing up cheating indirectly. You're watching a movie together, and suddenly she comments, "I can't believe someone would cheat on their partner like that." Or she brings up a friend's story of betrayal, shaking her head in disgust. On the surface, it sounds like she's condemning disloyalty. But pay attention. When someone repeatedly talks about cheating out of nowhere, it's often more than commentary. It's confession in disguise. Psychologically, guilt looks for release. Carrying a secret creates unbearable tension, and indirect speech becomes a safety valve. By criticizing someone else's betrayal, she distances herself from her own actions while secretly acknowledging them. It's a way of confessing without ever being held accountable. Many men dismiss these moments thinking, at least she's against cheating. But the irony is, the louder she condemns it in others, the more likely she's trying to silence the voice inside her. Her comments aren't casual. They're a mirror of her own conscience. Here's the key. Don't ignore these disguised confessions. When a woman repeatedly brings up betrayal in conversations that don't call for it, that's not random. That's her guilt leaking through. Your response doesn't have to be confrontation. It should be observation. Connect the dots between her words and her actions. If talk of cheating coincides with other suspicious shifts in behavior, you're not just listening to commentary, you're listening to guilt speaking in code. Remember this: indirect confessions are still confessions. Ignore them, and you risk missing the clearest sign her conscience will ever give you. When you step back and look at all these signs together, a pattern begins to form. One random gift doesn't mean betrayal. A single burst of affection doesn't prove guilt. But when these behaviors stack up, when she suddenly becomes overly affectionate, showers you with gifts, asks endless questions, gets defensive, shifts her routine, grants you freedom, flips her phone habits, overpraises you, breaks down emotionally, and brings up cheating out of nowhere, then it's no longer coincidence. It's a story. Her behavior is telling you, even if her words never will. Here's the harsh truth most men don't want to hear. Guilt changes behavior, and once it sets in, it bleeds into everything. You don't need a confession to know something is off. You just need to pay attention, connect the dots, and trust your instincts. But this isn't about turning paranoid or living in constant suspicion. It's about reclaiming your awareness. Too many men ignore their gut because they want to avoid conflict. They accept gifts, enjoy the sudden affection, and swallow the overpraise because it feels good. Meanwhile, they miss the bigger picture. Don't let comfort blind you to reality. If you see multiple signs showing up at once, take it seriously. Don't jump to accusations, but don't dismiss the evidence either. Observation is your greatest tool. When you see clearly, you're no longer vulnerable to manipulation. You're no longer at the mercy of guilt-driven performances. And here's the empowering part. Whether or not betrayal has already happened, these moments are your opportunity to set standards. They're a wake-up call to demand honesty, consistency, and respect. To remind yourself that you deserve a relationship rooted in truth, not distraction, not performance, and not guilt-driven acts. So if you want to stay sharp, protect your peace, and never be blindsided by emotional games, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and share it with the men who need this wake-up call. Comment the sign you've recognized in your own experience. Sharing it could help another man see what he's been blind to. Every week, I'll bring you more insights to help you cut through illusions, reclaim your power, and lead your relationships on your terms.